There has been made many theories about the Tears of the Kingdom since the recent trailer release, and today we're going to be discussing some of the most interesting ones, at least according to me. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Let's go ahead and discuss it. Okay, coming in hard, let's start with the time traveling theory. This is a very popular theory. When we see Zelda falling, we see this glowing light. She has the tear in one of her hands. The theory here is that she is either transported into another dimension or another time. I think it's most likely that we're talking about time travel instead of dimension travel, but I wouldn't rule it out because we've seen both before. In Majora's Mask we had a dimension travel, and we've seen time travel in Ocarina of Time, where Link is able to, through the Temple of Time, travel back and forth 7 years in time. So this is not a new concept. I think this is very likely. What is more interesting is, what time are we talking about? So we know there are some main events that are spoken about in Breath of the Wild. We have the 100 years prior, where Calamity Ganon was released after 10,000 years. Do I think that we're traveling back 100 years? No, I don't. Simply because there's no sign of the Zonai being present 100 years ago, and we spoke of them as an ancient tribe, and you would think that ancient would not be 100 years. Do I think we're going to go all the way back to Calamity Ganon 10,000 years ago? That's a long time, but I mean, it's possible, but that would mean that the Great Showdown 10,000 years ago perhaps would have had a different outcome, which will be affecting the later timeline. But something that does speak of this theory is the appearance of the Sky Islands. It would make sense that something has happened in the past due to Zelda's time traveling to make these Sky Islands suddenly appear. Some people have spoken about the cloud barrier in Skyward Sword. We know there was a cloud barrier separating Skyloft from the rest of the world. We also see clips in this recent trailer where Ganon strikes this beam of light, which seems to be penetrating some kind of barrier. We also saw the dragon in Breath of the Wild entering in and out of this cloud barrier. So it is possible that some kind of barrier has been broken in order for these Sky Islands to suddenly appear. This would also make sense when we're speaking about the fact that the Zonai are going to be playing a role in this game. If Zelda is traveling back to a time where the Zonai was alive, then those actions would directly affect the future or the present, where the Zonai abilities are suddenly reappearing after the Zonai being lost with years of absence. Another thing that could be confirming the idea of time traveling is that we see that Link's hand has been corrupted with malice, and we have one hand that appears at least 3 times. The same hand that is resting on Zelda's shoulder is also the one containing Ganondorf, but it's also the same hand, it appears to be, that seems to have taken over Link's arm after it has been affected with malice. This hand cannot exist multiple times in the same present, so it would make sense that when we see the hand resting on Zelda's shoulder, this is actually a clip from the past. Alright, so the second theory is that this is Demise. When I first reacted to this, I thought that this was Ganondorf, but after taking a look at it and hearing some of your comments, I realized that this might be Demise. So this is really interesting. We might have both Demise and Ganondorf in the same game. Do I think that we're going to be fighting both of them? That would be very ambitious. I think it's more likely that we're going to be fighting Ganondorf, and Demise will somehow have a cameo, or maybe he's even part of the past. Okay, so when did we see Demise in the timeline? We saw him in Skyward Sword. Do I think that we are traveled all the way back to the events of Skyward Sword? I don't. The reason for it is that was the beginning of the timeline. So if we were transported all the way back to this time, we would be perhaps corrupting the entire timeline of the Zelda series. So I don't think that's the case. The other idea is that we know Demise is sealed within the Master Sword at the end of the events of Skyward Sword. So given that the Master Sword is breaking in this game, Demise's spirit might be released. So perhaps Demise is the one where we're gonna be fighting. I mean, who knows, right? Okay, so the third theory is that we will be seeing a return of sages. What is interesting is that we have 7 tiers. This could lead to the idea that we're going to be having 7 sages. The ones that we're speculating might become these sages would be the champion successors. This would also mean that we might end up saying goodbye to yet another couple of our favorite characters. Because once you're a sage, you don't wander around Hyrule, right? Back in Ocarina of Time, the sages would be transported into the sacred realm after being awakened, thus disappearing from the world of Hyrule. The time of the awakening is also the time of the collectible object being given. In this game, we are theorizing that the tiers are going to be the collectible. But what we see here is that the champion successors are equipped with these tiers. So my question is, when is the awakening going to be happening? Or is this different kind of sages? But okay, so we have 7 tiers, and let's just count for a second. We have 4 champions. We have Chulin, we have Sidon, we have Riju, and we have Yunobo, whom we haven't seen in this game so far. So is he even okay? Who knows? The Goron tier would be red, right? And as many of you maybe know, the red tier is to be found in Ganondorf's headpiece. So maybe something has happened, which is supported by the fact that we see that the volcano located near the Gorons seems to be filled with malice at this point. So maybe Yunobo has been into the volcano? Which, by the way, reminds me that I think that we are going to be finding a dungeon in the volcano. Alright, so sages. Even if we were to find Yunobo, then that would be 4. Okay, so in the previous games, Zelda has been one of the sages. Could this be the case here again? We know that she has been this before, and she is holding one of the tiers. Now, if holding a tier is the premise of being a sage, would that mean that Ganondorf is going to be a sage as well? Well, not if the red tier is stolen from the Gorons, but that still leaves us with 2 left. Could that be where we see one of the Zonai maybe playing a role? I don't think that is entirely unlikely. But some of these clips that we've seen might be flashbacks or prehistoric events. But then again, as I mentioned, when you're a sage, you're not necessarily living. So if we have one of our Zonai characters be a sage, then this one might already be a sage long before. So who are we missing? We are missing a Sheikah representative. Now, we don't know much about the Sheikah or what role they're going to be playing in this game, so this is going to be really interesting. But it could very well be that these tiers are going to be representing sages in this game. Very interesting theory. I love all of the callbacks, all of the nostalgia, so I'm here for it. Alright, so the last theory is the identity of this person. Some mention that it could be Hylia, some mention that it could be a previous incarnation of Zelda. So the reason why I don't think that this person is Hylia is because she has been depicted in murals, in statues, many times. And none of these depictions, as far as I know at least, looks like this. This looks more like a hybrid of a Zonai and Princess Zelda. So could this be a previous incarnation of Princess Zelda? It could be, but that would be quite a sidetrack from how we're used to seeing her. I'm assuming that some of these cutscenes is taking place after the latest game in the timeline, prior to Breath of the Wild, which means that she would alter her appearance significantly in one incarnation and then going back to the more traditional Zelda that we know. I mean, it could be, but she sure looks different. We do see these tattoos on her, which we also see of Zelda. This could be the Zonai equivalent to being experienced, having achieved something, having reached a certain level of powers and abilities. So I think that it's most likely that this is a Zonai Zelda from the past who has had incredible powers, which the Zelda from this installment now goes through the same training, the same process in order to help herself get back to the present time. Well, on that note, I think I've covered some of the most interesting theories. One thing is for certain, I think that the Nintendo team has done an incredible job in making this game very, very exciting so far. Now, this is the hard number 2, you know, this is the Majora's Mask to the Ocarina of Time, which is why I also think that the trailer, the music, everything is just much more epic. There are these callbacks to previous installments because it is so difficult to make a number 2 and make everyone happy. I hope you enjoyed my little take here on some of these theories. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time.